Awesome. So we've got a few people there. Kia ora or hello everyone. My name's Lauren and I am from the University of Otago here in Dunedin, and I have got Jay joining me, also from New Zealand, but actually from our Auckland clinic, which is great. So the session today, we really wanted to make it a bit sort of informal, as interactive as possible. So you'll see we've got the chat there. Please feel free to throw in some questions. But I would like to pass it over to Jay, basically to share his experience. So he is in his final year of dentistry and is up in Auckland, but it started here in Dunedin. So Jay, if you could tell us a little bit about your journey, how you found living and studying in Dunedin, that would be amazing.
Yep, definitely. So hello everyone, back in Canada. My name is Jay. I'm originally from Toronto, and I've been in New Zealand now for about a little over 3 years now. I'm in my final year for the BDS program in Otago. So I was in Dunedin for 3 years, doing the dental program, and then there's also a option of going to Auckland here for your final year. So I think during our year, it was voluntary. You can go if you like. But then I believe starting next year, they will be sending about 48 students every year for your final year. And yeah, and I believe they pick who goes. I believe you can volunteer as well still, but there are limited spaces in Auckland here. So so yes, yeah, that's a little bit about myself. Definitely just in terms of, I guess if I were to kind of contrast between Canada and here at the moment, I guess you can say that New Zealand is COVID-free in a sense. So life is quite normal here. I don't know how it is back in Toronto at the moment. I do keep in contact with my friends and whatnot, and it seems like it's kind of locked down here and there every once in a while. So life is a little bit challenging in Canada at the moment, from what I'm hearing, but definitely here, it's quite different, very normal here. Everyone kind of does their own thing. So I'm not sure how the whole acceptance and how the school is going to start next year. I believe they'll be taking in international students next year. So, but yes, just a little bit more about myself. I graduated from McMaster, and I applied to New Zealand kind of out of the blue. I didn't really think about New Zealand much because everyone kind of goes applying for Australia usually. And I think at that time, OzTREKK wasn't actually part of this journey. So I kind of applied on my own by myself without really much help. But I believe now OzTREKK partnered with Otago. So it's a really good opportunity to kind of learn about the application process and ask questions about New Zealand if you guys have any. So I guess I'm just here to kind of answer questions and help out. Because I kind of didn't get that when I applied at that moment. So it was a little bit challenging, but it was definitely fun on my end. So yeah, if there's any questions, I can always kind of answer them.
Jay, could you maybe explain, I guess, if you were to say to some students what, given you did everything yourself and we've got OzTREKK who do an amazing job at facilitating the application process and informing students, when you came to Dunedin in particular, obviously you had 3 years here, what was it that you wish you'd known? Was the city what you expected? Was there something, if you looked back, that you wish someone had told you? Or how would you, I guess, describe living in the city, especially compared to, obviously Dunedin, such a student town, compared to somewhere like Toronto, which is a massive city?
Yeah, I think at that moment, I got my acceptance quite late. I think like late December. School started in February, so I didn't really have much time to really research. But definitely just in terms of living here, like the housing costs and just a little little things here and there with like maybe banking and things like that. Yeah, I kind of had to learn on the go, on the fly. So just even those basic things, I think it would be nice if someone kind of guided me through that, because it was a little bit of a challenge kind of finding housing here and the way it works, that you have to pay on a fortnightly basis, a weekly basis instead of monthly, which is the usual in Toronto. And just in terms of the environment in Dunedin, because I went to McMaster, Hamilton is kind of a little bit more, I guess, rural in a sense, suburban compared to Toronto. So it was quite similar to Hamilton, but definitely it's a lot more student centered, Dunedin. During the break, a lot of students usually go back to Auckland or wherever they're from. So it usually becomes very quiet during the summer here in Dunedin. But when school is there, it's mainly a student run city almost. So, you know, if you're, there's a lot of social events, it's a very tight knit community in Dunedin. So yeah, I kind of learned about that, read about it and YouTubed it before. But definitely when you get here, you'll see that it's very student centered.
That's awesome. When you mentioned before about the cost of living, would you say it was cheaper living here?
Well, from what I remember in Hamilton, I paid like $425 a month. In Dunedin, my first year, I paid about $130 a week, and that was like a really small room, and that was very last minute. But I think the average is probably about $180, depending on what type of house you're going into. I do have to say Dunedin housing is quite very old. So during the winter months, it might get quite cold. So make sure you find a place that has unlimited power, because you do have to pay for power in Dunedin. So I think that's a big tip in terms of finding a house, because yeah, insulation is not too great in the houses. So you definitely need your heater during the winter months.
Yeah, good question. So I see there's a question there in terms of whether you are able to work part-time. There's also a question about the weather. I know Jay has just mentioned it is cold. Dunedin has 4 seasons. My last trip was actually with OzTREKK right across Canada before kind of everything shut down. Dunedin is cold, but it gets nowhere near as cold as Canada. So we're quite a temperate climate, but I totally agree with Jay's comments. Dunedin, we don't have central heating in New Zealand. That's just not really a concept we've kind of cottoned onto yet. So one of the things that's really good is there's like a code of compliance now around housing. So landlords have to ensure like a minimum standard of insulation and things like that. But Jay, in terms of the question, did you work part-time at all when you were studying in Dunedin?
My first 2 years, I didn't work. My third year, there was actually a really good opportunity in the school, the dental school, where they needed student clinical assistants. So I was able to do that maybe about 10 hours a week during my third year. And right now in Auckland, I am working, but I actually work on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday. So it's quite full on for me this year, because clinics is pretty much Monday to Friday. I do have a day off on Friday, fortunately, but I do work on Saturday and Sunday. So like you do have the time, but definitely it's not easy. So if you're kind of up for, I guess, the challenge, and if you can manage your time well, then yeah, it's doable. It's definitely possible. Yeah.
Is there anything else, I guess, in terms of what you expected when you started the program, in terms of how hands-on it was, or what like the professors or the academics alike, or your classmates? Like, did you find it relatively kind of social and collegial? Do you feel like you can talk to the professors quite easily about things?
Yeah, definitely. You can definitely have a good conversation with professors. Very approachable, very friendly. I guess a culture shock I kind of felt my first year was they called the professors on a first name basis here. So instead of saying like Professor, I don't know, Smith, they'll just be like, hey, John, which that was kind of really shocking for me at first, but you kind of get used to it. And then it almost feels awkward to actually call them by their last name. But yeah, very approachable. A lot of the tutors are very approachable as well, especially in Auckland because I'm here. I can definitely say really a lot of great things about Auckland at the moment. It's very hands-on. The tutors are very, they welcome conversation, welcome discussion. If you have cases, they're more than happy to help you out and give their input. So yeah, it's a very tight-knit community.
Did you feel like, obviously your schedule sounds relatively full on for your final year. When you were, I guess, the first couple of years when you said you weren't working, did you feel like you could get like a good balance? Like, would you go and do like extracurricular activities? Would you go exploring? Did you get to do much sightseeing, like around the South Island, for example, or hiking or whatever?
Oh yeah. Well, the first year of the dental program is mainly, I would probably say like 95% theoretical. So a lot of kind of lecture style, a lot of kind of self-studying, things like that. And then after the first year, it does start to pick up in terms of the clinical aspect. But yeah, no, you definitely have free time. Especially in the South Island, it's a beautiful place. You can kind of go to a lot of places. There's Queenstown, there's Tekapo Christchurch. Supposedly, I visited a lot more places in the South Island than most New Zealanders that lived here. So there's a lot of places to visit. It's very, I think a lot of people know New Zealand for Lord of the Rings. So there's a lot of beautiful like beaches and like hiking areas for sure. That's not available in Toronto, which you can't really experience in Toronto. So yeah, if you love nature and just hiking and just seeing landscapes and things like that, I think New Zealand is probably one of the best places for that.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Jay. I'm now mindful that we are already at 15 minutes. So I'm going to be on the Career Echo booth for the rest of the year. So if you have got any questions, then I'm more than happy to answer them. But thank you so much, Jay, who is, as you can see, in the middle of actually like studying and working and is able to, I can pry him away so he can have a chat with you all. So really appreciate you sharing your experience.
No worries. Also, sorry, last thing. If any other students in Canada at the moment, like if they do want to ask just directly questions to me, I think Lauren, you have my email and or Instagram, whichever. Yeah, feel free, feel more than free to send me a message if you have any specific questions. Because yeah, it definitely would have helped if someone was there to kind of help me out in the first year or before going to New Zealand. So yeah, just shoot me time. More than happy to help.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It's fantastic. Actually, there's one question that popped in that we have about maybe a minute, 90 seconds to answer if you want. So we have Armin here, who's currently chairside dental assisting, and he wants to know if this would help in the selection and clinical practice.
That I'm not completely sure in terms of the application process. I just know that when I applied, they asked for just my work experience, my I don't think my DAT score mattered because New Zealand doesn't have DAT scores, just my GPA. So, but I do think they looked at work experiences. I'm not completely sure because I don't know how that Lauren can probably answer a lot better than I can.
I think that's definitely something that admissions committee will look at in your CV and in terms of why you want to study. My big piece of advice is part of the application process. There is a statement of intent or why you want to study dentistry. And so my really big advice for that one is to not make it a really generic statement. And if you can incorporate why you want to come to Otago in that, the admissions committee will certainly take notice of that. But it's great. I think if you've got that experience, that looks really good, but they'll be looking at all of those other admissions criteria too. But in terms of practically, if you've got experience, then I'm sure that looks really good.
Great. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Lauren and Jay, that's awesome. A lot of great insight, which is perfect. And I'm really happy that Otago is a new partner of OzTREKK. It's our newest partner so that we can help students follow in your footsteps, Jay.
No worries. Yeah, I just typed in my Instagram handle. Yeah, just feel free to message anytime.
Perfect. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day over there. And we're going to have our last presentations coming up, but if you have any more questions, you can head over to the Career Echo chat room as well.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Jay.
No worries.